Good morning to everyone. Today I am going to report Chapter 2, Basic Principles and Concept of Instructional Materials. Okay, so before we proceed, I want everyone to read what is flashed on the screen. You have to read silently. We have to go over the overview of this chapter. What will this chapter give us? Ano bang maibibigay nitong chapter na ito sa atin? Okay, this chapter will help us deeply understand the principle of instructional planning. So why plan? That is the first question. Why plan an instructional material? So you have your own answer. You will also learn from this chapter on how we are going to passionately love designing a particular instructional material for the students. Keep in mind that there are three psychological principles of this learning. We have the behavioral, the cognitive, and the constructivist. So at the end of this lesson, we will not only love how to make instructional planning or how to design a particular learning resource, but we will also appreciate and better understand on how this principle of instructional planning motivates one's desires to teach, touch, and transform a learner. Okay, so moving on. Question, learning for all. Why should we teach? Why should we plan? Why should we take into consideration that learning is considerably for everyone? Learning for all is the question. Who are we going to give? Who are we going to teach? And who are we going to mold? Okay, designing a particular and effective instructional materials or instruction for students, we have to take into consideration the disabilities of a particular student, their age, the psychological challenges, their behaviors, their status. In planning, we have to consider the strengths and the weaknesses of a learner, their needs, and what should be enriched and what should be empowered for them to reach their goals. Remember that there are 6 principles of instructional planning. These are personally meaningful, age respectful, promotes autonomy, social relevant, opportunities for social interaction, and developmentally appropriate. Later, I will discuss with you those 6 meaningful instructional principles. Okay, now, this map will give us a preview on these principles. Okay, we have to understand the particular rationale, and then determine if there is a special needs for a course, special learners, determine that the content should be adapted in view of the objects, and the classify of focus of course, it is stressing subject matter learners are on him. Okay, sa madaling salita, from this chapter, we will learn how to design a particular learning resource which is suited to everybody, which is suited for everyone. Okay, so it is a learner-centered or child-friendly instructional planning. Okay, moving on. From this lesson 2.2, we'll have to learn the following. Understand the rationale, of the course, learn the context of the goals of the educational institution, and utilize activities that's based on the rationale of. And understand the rationale, of course, in the context of goals and schools of districts. Okay, 2.1 version 2.1, chapter 2.1. What is the idea of this chapter? Okay, first question. Why should we plan? Why should we learn? Why should we teach? Okay, the first question, what is the first thing that you have to consider in an instructional planning? Okay, yes, of course. We have to set goals. We have to set objectives. We have to set prior objectives for us to attain a particular goal. For us to know what is expected for the students. In educational learning, objectives are brief statements that describe that students will be expected to learn by the end of the school year. Of course, bakit ka pa magtuturo kung hindi mo sila matuturuan? Since we know that learning is a process, it should be continuously done not only inside the classroom but even outside the classroom, most especially from this time of pandemic. In this time of pandemic, I should say. So we have to design different kinds of learning resource materials that will help the students continue quality of learning amidst this pandemic. So we have to take into consideration the distance learning. So in public school, we have these different kinds of modalities that they can use to extend education still, even we are experiencing an unexpected pandemic. But before we are going to craft a particular instructional resource, we have to set goals. That is the number one. We have to set objectives. Kailangan may target ka. Kailangan may gagawin ka. Kailangan meron kang gagawin na ini-expect na magagawa ng bata at the end of the lesson. Okay. In defining learning objectives, it might be complicated, but in fact, educators have this what we call strategies or teaching learning strategies that they can apply in making an instructional to make instructional planning possible. Okay? For example, the terms students learning, objective, benchmark, grade level indicator, learning target, performance indicator. So, to cut it short, educators are also creating a wide range of homegrown terms of learning objectives. So, sa atin, sa mga guro, sa mga facilitators, nakasalalay ang success ng isang learning resource material na ibibigay sa mga estudyante. While educators use learning objectives in different ways to achieve a variety of instructional materials or instructional goals, the concept is closely related to learning progression. So, bakit ka pa magtuturo kung wala ka namang plano? This is like what we are doing in an everyday routine of a teacher. Yung gumagawa tayo ng lesson plan, daily lesson logs. So, why should we plan? Minsan, nagtatanong tayo, bakit pa kasi tayo nagpaplano kung pwede naman tayo magturo agad-agad? So, no. It's a big no. We have to plan. Everything must be planned. Okay. Learning objectives are also increasingly being used in the job performance evaluation of teachers. Of course, the way you are going to craft particular learning objectives will also attest you being a professional, your strategies, your prowess, the art of planning that you can apply for your students to respond immediately, efficiently, and quickly to a particular learning resource in a specific subject. So, dito, tinetest din yung galing mo or yung diskarte mo bilang isang guro kung paano ka gumawa ng isang instructional materials or kung magiging successful ba ang mga plans mo sa mga estudyante. Learning objectives are also a way to establish and articulate academic expectations of students, of course, for them to know what is expected from them. Precisely, tama. Kapag ang teacher nakapagplano ng isang magandang instructional material na kung saan nagbibuild ng confidence at saka academic excellence sa isang estudyante, of course, their performances will be boosted, their performances will be uplifted. So, mas mag-i-strive pa sila. Kasi yung mga bata ngayon, the more na china-challenge sila, the more na nag-a-apply or nag-iisip sila ng mga makabagong strategies. We all know that 21st century diverse learners are more techy than the old ones. So, if they are challenged, they are more challenged, then they will think of more possible ways how they could respond into a particular subject. Okay, understood? Okay, this activity will explain. Okay, the first one is very transparent. We can consider that as body knowledge. Okay, this is similar with what we call the multiple intelligences of students. But before we move further, if we are going to plan an instructional resource, if we will going to make instructional planning and how we are going to present procedures, we have also to consider higher order thinking skills for the students also to generate their skills. Okay, paano ba? Say for instance, we have to consider their age, their behavior, their psychological state, their capacity. Okay, if we are teaching a grade 11 and 12 student or learners or the senior high school, so mas higher dapat yung objectives, mas higher dapat yung expectation mo sa plans na ibibigay mo because they are more mature compared to junior high school and elementary. So much is expected from them already. So we have to consider higher order thinking skills or not the complicated one but more comprehensive, aligned with their age and behavior. Okay, we can see that sports and games, theater, dance, autonomy, and sociology, I should say, spatial and awareness, all of those developmental growths and challenges, all those we can simplify into a what we call body knowledge. Okay, this one is not hindi na itinuro. We already have this. This is what we consider our skills, talents ng mga bata, what they can give na hindi na nila pinag-aralan. Bata pa lang sila, meron na sa kanila ito. Okay, this is what we call their talents and their skills. Okay, the knowledge, the intelligence of their body. Okay, the next one, we have this one. So, it is very much obvious that if we give community service, democratic process, and consensus, social politic awareness, ethics, and active involvement. Yes, correct. We give citizenship. Okay, we teach students on how to be a good citizen of this country. Being a good citizen, you have to give also a social reaction or what we call social interaction with other people. Okay, no man is an island. We need others. So we have to communicate with others, transmit informations with others, mingle with others. We have to have social life, being a good citizen. So we have to respond to the needs and the demands of the society as well. So that's what we call citizenship. The next one, okay, reading, writing, speaking, storytelling, interpersonal skills, listening skills, group discussions, seeing the value of many perspectives, asking for what you need. Those are what we call communication. So there are many kinds of communication. Interpersonal, social linguistic, social communication, verbal, non-verbal. So these are kinds of communication. So we have also to practice and teach students how to communicate with others, how to communicate with themselves either. Okay, this is one of the most important intelligence that we should have as a human being. Communication. Next one, we have the building things, play, puppets, and mime, creating videos, murals, paintings, etc., playing, writing, and listening to music, singing, dancing, and tumbling. So those are what we call exactly creative arts. Okay, it is also a talent. If a student or a learner have this talent, extraordinary, exemplary siya. Okay, so meron siyang kagalingan. That's why it is called multiple intelligences. hindi man siya marunong magsayaw, marunong man siya mag-paint. Hindi naman siya marunong mag-deliver ng speech, marunong naman siyang gumawa ng mga paintings, mag-drawing, marunong siyang mag-play ng guitar. Okay, this is what we call creative arts. So, it involves music, arts, and so forth, and so on. Of course, we have this knowledge too. Okay, we respond to environment. We give sense in gaining one's place impact in the environment, understanding the ecosystem, explaining the global and political aspect of climate change, practice, reuse, reduce, recycle, composting. So, we have to, okay, exactly, to give environmental harmony. Oo, dapat. Kasi, we are the ones living in this world. So, we have to take good care of the environment also. We have to be sensitive with the whispers and the shouts of the environment. Yung mga nakikita natin at mga hindi natin nakikita, but we can feel them. So we have to be more sensitive and we give harmony to environment. And of course, the last one, this is one of the most important because everything is here now. The logical thinking. So being an instructional planner, you have to develop logical thinking to students. Hindi mo lang siya binigyan ng 1 plus 1 is equal to 2. So you have to develop higher order thinking skills, or what we call the HATS. We have to develop as facilitators and teachers the comprehension, the logical thinking of a learner. Kailangan nag-iisip siya. Kailangan nagde-decide siya. Kailangan hindi lang siya marunong sumagot ng what, who, where. Dapat marunong din siyang sumagot ng how, why. Okay. It's hindi lang lahat na nasa knowledge. Kailangan meron tayong in-depth questions, in-depth plans para ma-meet din natin yung mga para ma-boost pa natin kung ano ba yung mga kagalingan ng bata. We have to develop their thinking, logical thinking, their capacity. Wala namang taong bobo, wala namang estudyanteng what we call bobo. Lahat tayo ay may talino. So, what we are going to do, we should not just plan, simple lang, pwede na yan. Hindi pwede na yan. If meron pang extra that we can give to students, then we have to develop. Being an instructional planner, we have to be more sensitive with the needs of the students. Hindi pwede na because the satisfaction is already there. Dahil lang nagtrabaho ka or makitang may napagtrabahuhan ka na, you stop there. You also have to take into consideration yung maibibigay mong knowledge sa bata. So, all in all, if we are going to design a instruction, we have to develop their logical thinking. Next one, the practical life skills. Of course, ito yung skills natin. In senior high school students, meron tayong tinatawag na mga skills nila sa kanilang mga majors. Kung saan ang interest nila, kung saan sila magaling. Huwag mong ipilit kung hindi nila gustong ginagawa nila. Say for instance, in senior high school or in junior high school, preparation for senior high school preparation for college. Dapat, nung senior high school pa lang sila, na nahone na yung kanilang skills, na kung saan, when they go to college, mas mapakikinabangan pa nila yung skills na meron sila. So, it should be their interest, hindi yung dahil gusto mo or dahil gusto ng ibang tao. So, we have to be more practical. And the last one, exploring many ways of knowing, thinking possibility for one's own action, development of voice, understanding learning styles, and harmony, honoring your own personal strengths and challenges. Okay, all of those are about yourselves. Okay, we have to teach students to boost their self-confidence. Hindi pwedeng ibang taong maniwala sa kanila una. Before anyone else, they should also consider themselves as their great what we call inspiration. So kailangan they should know their strengths and weaknesses, and failure will never hinder them from being successful. So we have to teach this kind of intelligence for the students. Okay, papasok dito sa self natin dito as emotional, psychological, behavioral, kasi doon sa instructional planning na gagawin natin, kailangan namomold ang pagkatao ng isang learner. Kailangan kompletos, rekados. They know what is good or bad. They know what is proper. Okay, so kailangan kompletos, rekados. So that ends our 2.1 discussion. So I will give the floor to our next reporter who will report the lesson 2.2. Determine what content should be adopted in view of the objectives. Questions will be answered after the last reporter from this chapter. Thank you.